Hello and welcome to another episode of Breaking the Guard. On today's episode, I want to talk about one important factor into winning any contest, particularly in matches, and that is mindset. In particular, I was watching the UFC BTG 3 a couple weeks ago, and there was one match where I felt like, oh, this definitely happened, where Andy Varela versus Daniel Sattler, and you could see Andy really broke down Daniel pretty quickly, pretty much after one round, just with heavy collar ties and putting lots of pressure. And you can tell Andy was feeling himself because in between rounds, rather than listening to his corner, he shushed them and he just started dancing. He already knew he had it in the bag, right? He knew he broke his opponent, and you could tell watching his opponent was broken because the way he postured himself and kind of receded, and it made for a very beautiful finish by Andy, where he was able to use the wall to do a slide by and then jump right to the back rear naked choke. But the victory was won before that slide by, right? It was won by his presence, it was won by his mindset, and it's something that you have to be attuned to, right? And it's gone the other way too. I've seen Andy get beat mentally early and then lose, right? So it could happen to anybody, but you have to be aware of it. I can tell you times where myself, it affected me. And the one match I know it happened to me was with Paul Harris, for sure. Because at that time, I wasn't training the same that I normally did, which I had some injuries. I didn't have as many of the really tough sparring partners. So I was playing a lot when I was training versus battling, right? I was going through different things, flowing around, moving. I wasn't going kill, 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 kill. And that translated into my competition. I did win my first match by submission, but when I went in there with Paul Harris, he obviously doesn't follow any rules and just was crazy collar tying me, like judo chopping style, and threw me off my game a bit. And normally I'm the guy throwing collar ties or whatnot, but I got roughed up there. And he ended up scoring a takedown off my far knee block attempt, and I didn't get off on the right foot. I was playing instead of fighting, right? And to me, that was a broken mindset, right? I'm going to lose to somebody who's killing if I'm playing. Similarly, I feel like Daniel against Andy, while he might not have been playing, he wasn't fighting to the same level that Andy was. Andy was being very rough, boom, boom, and going hard. And if you let someone rough you up without giving them some of that heat back, it's not good, right? Like, you're psychologically losing this battle. You're getting big dogged, which is not good, right? That means that you're conceding, like, oh, he's got this ability over me. You have to get right up in their face and match that intensity. You don't want to be a gentleman in competition, right? If someone gives you a hard clap, you clap them right back. So they know that, oh, okay, I'm not going to just do whatever I want. Like, I have to respect this guy in front of me. That's my take anyways. And from personal experience, I can tell you, I've been on both sides of that coin. I've roughed people up, and I can tell, like, when they've just checked out early because they weren't about that life. And like I said, with Paul Harris is the one incident I can recall where, like, I got roughed up, on the feet. So that's one aspect of mindset. But there's a second part, which is framing, right? And I've also had an incident of this where in ACC 2009 in the absolute division, after I had won the bronze medal, in my mind I was done. I didn't have any plans to do an absolute division. As you may have heard me in the past talk about, the weight cut was particularly rough, and I definitely felt some of the effects on that second day. And I was a bit fatigued. So I was happy, I had a very close match with Galvao. I had the submission win over Lovato. I'm like, okay, I'm done. That's a good way to end on a W. And I was feeling satisfied. It was my best performance to date. I got 3 out of 4 submissions, almost had a 4th one, so I'm good. But unknowingly, my brother submitted my name into the absolute division, and I got accepted. And then they're like, "Oh, okay, David, you got another match." I'm like, "Oh, God damn it! I want to do another one." I was good, man. Because I had done them every year before, and fortunately, I was accepted on each invite. But the other 2 years, 2005, 2007, I didn't make it. I didn't make it to the podium, so I definitely wanted something more. This year, I got to the podium, so I was feeling myself a little bit. I'm like, okay, I'm good. But then my brother put my name in, got me in there, and then I drew a guy that was also in my same city in Miami, Roberto Cyborg Abreu. So I was like, son of a bitch, right? Like, okay, this is a tough match, heavyweight, silver medalist at that, or was he silver or bronze? I'm not sure, but he medaled, right? And I'm like, okay. And in my mind, what I had told myself, I can't lose to a guy in my city who is, has a school in my city, not good, right? That was good framing. I ended up winning that match in overtime, probably by the hair of my chinny chin chin, right? Like, it was a very close matchup. I ended up winning, I think, based more on aggression than anything else, because I was just putting a lot of pressure. I had a takedown. I think he had a back take, and then he got penalized for stalling. So again, very close match. Unfortunately for me, like as always happened to me in the absolute divisions, they don't give you rest between matches, especially when you're running long. And unfortunately, I had an overtime, so I ran long. So I walked from one mat to the next mat, and my next match was with Gunnar Nelson. Gunnar Nelson only had one match on day one because he lost his first run. And then he had a match on day 2, which he dominated in the absolute division against Jeff Bonson. I think he choked him or something. So, and then he went with me. So I'm like, crap, he's going to be a lot fresher than I am. And I told myself, the framing I had in my head was, I'm not going to let this match go into overtime. That was what I told myself. I'm not going to let this match go into overtime. As I told you, I was already fatigued. In my mind, like if I let the match go run long, it's going to be a problem. I want to get this guy out of here. Whether I win by the decision or I submit him. And I was thinking submission heavy because this is going to be the first guy that I get to face in an absolute division that was my weight class. Every time it's heavyweights or light heavyweights, or basically 219 or over, right? I'm like, finally, somebody who's in my size, I can submit this guy. So in the match, I had a few bites, had a guillotine bite that was all right. That was okay, not great. I had a dog bar that was pretty good that he rolled out of, but he was out hustling me as far as he was able to scramble out of everything. I was getting good looks, but I didn't have the hustle I needed to get the finish or to score. So he kept squeaking out of everything. About less than a minute left in the match. It's 0-0, and all signs are indicating we're going into overtime. Remember the framing I had. Do not let this match go into overtime. What did I do? He shot in a bad shot. I sprawled. Now, I could have played it safe there, worked the front headlock, perhaps try to look for the back. Chances are I wasn't going to score, but we would have made it overtime easy. Instead, I forced a Kimura that was very sloppy. It was terrible, actually. And in the process of doing so, I exposed my back. He ended up, I'm sorry. When I rolled for the Kimura, and I went to my back rather, but I completely lost it. So then he ended up on top. I brain farted there because I forgot that, that's going to be a guard pull or a takedown, depending how the ref sees it. And now I'm going to lose by points. And I responded very late to the scramble because I heard my brother say points. And I'm like, oh crap. I turtled. Then he got my back and he wrapped a rear naked choke very quickly. And I was forced to tap there because otherwise it would have been night-night. And I walked off the mats. I'm like, such a dumb move. I strategically made a terrible call, but then I remembered what I told myself. I'm like, I fulfilled my promise. I didn't let the match go into overtime. I didn't specify that I'm going to win the match in regulation. It was an important caveat because my subconscious took the instructions literally. Me winning or losing the match in regulation was within the parameters of the goal I set. So to my subconscious, you did what you wanted. You didn't go into overtime. It's like making a wish with a genie. If you're not too specific, you're gonna get screwed, and I got screwed. Because that's a match I know I could have won. I played it dumb, right? But that is because of the framing I put on that match. So you have to set the proper goals and expectations and be very specific with what you want to happen. Because especially when you're tired, you're going to fall to, the lowest level of your expectations and goals. And I did, So I say that to warn people, you have to be careful what you think and what you say to yourself and how you approach matches, because the mindset is everything, right? Because there's matches like that where I'm like, man, that was a match that I easily had within my skill set to win. And I fumbled it. Because it's not always the better man that wins, is the one who wants it more, who is more determined and comes with a better strategy. And to Gunnar's credit, he had a great strategy, put a lot of pressure, kept moving, didn't let me hold anything. And it was just a matter of time cooking me before I goofed up. That's also going to play into my bad decision making is also partially because of fatigue. You get tired, you start making mistakes. So you have to make sure before you're very fatigued that you have made good mental decisions or you've properly set yourself up for success. Because once you start getting tired, you're not going to be making your best decisions. And I've been on the reverse side of this also, which is I'm the guy, in Cyborg, I was kind of doing the reverse, where I was the guy putting lots of pressure and I'm making them tired as the bigger man. The same thing I did to Zanji, right? I'm putting lots of pressure on them, getting them worn down so that they start making bad moves and I capitalize and win off that. I've been a guy who's been a cardio machine. So I used to run it was about 5 miles a day for that ADCC 2007 run. So I definitely have the cardio, or I had it, where I can just pressure someone and just break them down over time. And that's a mindset in itself too, right? Like this is my point, that you have to have the framework for how you're going to win a match, how you're going to fight it, how you're going to deal with adversity set up well before you step on the mats, because that's going to dictate in a large part how the match will play out. I can tell you, someone like Andy, when he goes out there, his mindset, he's going to go out there and he's going to big dog somebody. He's going to club, bully them. He's going to flex on them. And that's his way of imposing his will. And if he's able to do that and you let him do that to you, you're going to be in a lot of trouble, because now you've ceded a lot of ground, not just physically, but mentally. And if he starts dancing and having a good time, and I'm still like, man, you're in a world of hurt now, because he's just got the game controlled. So you have to be able to break somebody's facade of alphaing you, right? Because that's pretty much what he did. He just big dogged this guy. You can't let someone big dog you, right? And it starts with setting yourself up for success first. Understand, like, what is my strategy for this match? How am I going to combat this? What type of mindset do I have here? If I'm going to be the technician, I have to have certain things. If I'm going to be, the guy who wins by attrition, is another strategy, right? If I'm looking for the quick finish, right? Like, you have to tailor your mindset to the way that you plan to win, and be specific in doing so. I think people that just go there, I'm just going to show up and do whatever. Well, guess what? Whatever could happen, and whatever could be you losing by sub in 30 seconds. Now, be specific in how you expect things to happen. It's not always going to work out that way, but you have better chances of getting towards that than if you didn't. As an example, that would be like, well, you want to have, let's say, a pool built in your backyard. But rather than hire a contractor, and to like make a plan and take measurements so they know like how deep they can go, if they're going to hit any plumbing or wiring or whatnot, you're like, I'm just going to go out there and just do whatever and see what happens. Like, man, like, there are a lot of things that can go wrong, right? And you could totally goof this thing up. If I come out there and get a plan and all that, it's not a guarantee that things won't go wrong, but it's less likely to, right? And you might not get the pool that you ended up wanting, but you're going to be closer to it than if you just willy-nilly'd it. And there's a lot of people that go, oh yeah, I just go, and when I compete, I just do whatever. Like, man, you're being lazy. That's not like, oh, how like avant-garde I am, how cool that I can just not worry about those things. No, you're being lazy, because you're not doing the mental footwork, so to speak, to prep yourself properly. This is the same thing I would say, you've heard me say this before with training. Like, some people just go to training and expect the coach to just spoon feed you everything, so you don't have to make any preparations beforehand. You just go there and let them, move everything for you. It's better than nothing, but still lazy, right? Be an active learner. When you show up to the class or you show up to training, have goals in mind. Get yourself ready mentally, physically, emotionally, right? Like, I don't rely on people to warm me up anymore. You guys know that. I warm myself up. Before I'm going in there, if it's a tough training session, I'm giving myself hype up, tips, to get myself primed. I have goals in mind, like, what am I trying to hit today? What am I trying to avoid today? I'm not going in there just, let's see what happens. I'm not leaving that to chance. I'm going to throw in my 2 cents early on how I want this to happen. Now, is it going to go out that way? Maybe, maybe not. But I'm giving some direction. Otherwise, you're pretty much, you could be the best grappler in the world, but if you go in there with no instruction, no direction, it's like being the best marksman and being blindfolded and then spun in a 360 and then say shoot. It's like, I don't know where I'm going to end up shooting, right? I'm blind. And that's how you are when you don't set yourself up for success. You don't have a goal, you don't have a plan, you don't have expectations. You're flying blind. And I wouldn't recommend that. Go in there, do the legwork. Write down what you want from whether it's training or competition. What's the strategy, the tactics? How are you going to get there? What is the mindset? How do you need to be? Do you need to be aggressive? Do you need to be calm? Do you need to be in the guy's face, or do you want him to be? Do you want him to be one that's very aggressive, to make mistakes, right? Like all these types of things you have to draw out of yourself. And that's why most people don't like doing it, because it's thinking, Like, yeah, we got to exercise that brain. If you don't do it, someone else is going to do it on you. Anyhow, that's my thoughts on that, right? And breaking somebody mentally usually requires this type of legwork, right? You have to get them into areas they don't like, and that takes some calculations, right? You think and you plan, and it's a beautiful thing as a fighter when you break somebody, because you've employed a successful strategy. And I've done that many times, and it makes the fight very easy. Because once I've broken somebody, now it's just run them through. They're just waiting to be finished. Some of them will go into survival mode, and you just have to hold out, or some of them will just start opening up opportunities to get finished because they want to check out already. That is when you've perfectly crafted a strategy and mindset that would overcome your opponent and break them. And I feel this is something that many people can learn from and utilize. You don't need to be a great fighter or grappler or martial artist to have good tactics and mindset. It obviously helps, but it's not a prerequisite to have a high skill level physically, to have a high skill level mentally. They usually come together though, but there's nothing that would make that so. I think it's just the more experience you have, naturally the more skilled you are, and then the more experience you have, the more likely you're going to learn these type of lessons and utilize them yourself. But you could potentially cheat this learning curve by just starting to build that mental skill set faster than the physical skill set. And the nice thing is that you can build the mental skill set quicker because it doesn't require the physical exertion, which can be brutal. Anyhow, if you guys like that type of stuff, I would definitely recommend that you check out, a lot of my philosophy posts cover stuff like this, but my brother's book, Black Belt Psychology, which I believe we have on the website on video as well, covers just about every corner of combat sports psychology. And it was something that we made a prerequisite for all the fighters to read. And I think it has been a great benefit to our fighters because they're all older now, and most of them have grown out of the fight career. But beyond the fight career, they've all had great success in business and in their family lives. So I feel like it encapsulates the whole virtue set of the martial arts. So I would check that out. Otherwise, I'll catch you guys next week.